My name is Drew. This is Welcome to Boredom, and today I want to talk to you about one of my new favorite games, Scrummy. So let's take a look at it. How do you set up? How do you play? And what is the main goal of the game?
Here are some of the basics as well as the rules.
Scrummy is a 2 to 8 player game, but it can hold more players if you decide to play with house rules.
Players can be any age as long as they can spell 3-lettered words or more. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour and a half to complete an entire game.
The goal of the game is for you to be the first player to end a round with a total of 500 points.
When it comes to setting up for Scrummy, there are two jobs that need to be designated to two players. The first one is the scorekeeper. To set up for the scorekeeper, they will need a pen or pencil or something to write with. Then they'll need something to write on, whether that is a Scrummy score sheet, a game night book, or just a simple piece of paper. Then finally, they will need a dictionary. If you don't have a dictionary, using your phone is fine. You can only look it up on dictionary.com. Outside of that, no one is really allowed to use technology throughout this game. Next job that you need to assign is a dealer. The dealer is going to find the Scrummy skip cards and is going to take them and put them outside of the deck face up. Next, the dealer will shuffle the deck and then provide all the players with 12 cards. Then the dealer will take the remaining cards and will place them at the center of the table and will flip over the very first card to reveal what it is. And in this pile, it will be the discard pile.
When the dealer flips over the top card, it must be a letter or a wild card for the round to begin. If it's a lose a word or lose a turn card, then they must continue flipping over cards until they get a letter or a wild card.
And that's how you set up. In an original game of Scrummy, the way that you're going to play is by whoever is sitting left to the dealer is going to go first. So let's talk about how a player's turn will go. There are 3 things that a player will do on their turn. Number 1, they will draw a card. Number 2, they will play a word. Number 3, they will discard a card, and that's it. So let's dive a little bit deeper and see what that looks like for every single phase of a turn. First, a player will draw a card. You can either take a card from the discard pile, or you can take a card from off the top of the deck and add it to your hand. You cannot draw a card if it says lose a turn, lose a word. You're not allowed to take any of those, but if it has a letter on it, you are free to take it.
There's another rule that I've got to let you know about. When you take a card from the discard pile, you cannot keep that card in your hand. You must play that card in a word immediately after you draw it.
Next is the play a word phase. During this phase, you are encouraged to play a word from your hand. If you can't do it, that's okay. Just say pass, discard a card, and then it'll go to the next person beside you. The discard phase is the final phase of your turn. All you do is discard a card from your hand, and then it is the next player's turn. When a person gets rid of all their cards and they discard their final card, that symbolizes that the entire round is complete. The player who gets rid of all their cards at the end of the round, that individual will receive 50 bonus points for being the first individual to get rid of all their cards. Now let's talk about playing a word. After the first phase of drawing a card, whether that be from the deck or the discard pile, you must play a word. Here are some of the rules when it comes to playing a word. Number 1, it must be 3 letters or more. Number 2, you cannot make up words. It must be found in the dictionary. Number 3, when you play a word from your hand, it can be plural.
Now, when you play a word, it's important to be sure that you're spelling the word as you lay down the cards. It'll be easy to confuse the others if you do not do this.
Now, when it comes to the second phase and playing a word, there are 2 options that you have. You can create a word from the cards that you have in your hand for yourself, or number 2, you can add on letters to a word that someone else has already created. Let's use an example. Let's say that I played the word pain, P-A-I-N. It's your turn and you just so happen to have an S in your hand. You play that S and you create the word Spain. And if you do that, you are awarded 25 points. And the points that come from that word, Spain. The scorekeeper is going to take note of the word and the points. Then you take the S and you put it in the discard pile. The word Spain cannot be used for the remainder of the round. The main word, pain, remains on the table. Here are some of the rules playing cards on your opponent's word. Number 1, you cannot make it plural. Number 2, you can't make it past tense, so no ED at the end.
But there is an exception to this rule. You can add ED or S if it changes the meaning of the word. For example, let's use the word wick. If another player has used the word wick and you use ED, then the meaning of the word has changed from wick, the rope piece of a candle, to wicked, meaning evil.
And then thirdly, if there's a wild card, you can take that, change it into whatever that you like.
Here's an example of what I mean by changing a wild card. Let's say an opponent has played the word pan, P-A-N, but they're using a wild card for the letter A. You have multiple cards in your hand that could fix that situation. Let's say you have the letter S. You use that and you can make the word into spin. Or let's say you have the letter E and you use that and you can make the word pine. Or let's say you have both S and E. So now you can create the word spine. Once you've created a word from your opponent's word, you discard your cards and your opponent keeps their original set of cards.
And speaking of wild cards, let's talk about the 3 cards that you are going to see throughout the game. There's the wild card, the lose a turn card, and lose a word card. So let's look at these and see what they're all about. First card that we're going to talk about is the wild card. The wild card is used during the play a word phase. You use it to lay down a word when you're missing a letter. It can be used for any letter that you would like for it to be used as. Next, we're going to talk about the lose a turn and lose a word cards. These 2 cards are used at the end of your turn. You discard them into the discard pile, but you get to pick whoever it is that you want to use these cards on. As well, it is used to be mean to your fellow opponent. Whenever you discard the lose a turn card, you pick whoever you want to have their turn skipped. If you play in larger groups, it helps them remember if you use the Scrummy skip card. If a player discards a lose a word card, they must decide on an opponent and what word to be lost. So let's use the word pain, for example, P-A-I-N, that I've already used in the example before. If someone plays the lose a word card and they choose me and my word pain, then I have to take these cards and put them back into my hand. The scorekeeper is going to keep record of the word pain and they are going to mark it out, and I cannot play that word again for the remainder of the round. When the round ends, everyone must count their total number of points of the cards and words that they played. Again, the player who discards their final card will receive 50 bonus points towards their overall total score of the round. If you have cards still in your hand, then this is what you must do. Count up the total number of points of cards and words that you've played, then you subtract by the number and the amount of cards that you still have in your hand. And then whatever that total is going to go towards your total. And you need 500 points in order to win the game. So you will continue to play rounds until you or another player reaches 500 points. And that's been it. That's how you play Scrummy. Overall, thank you to Scrummy Institute Inc. for sending me this game, as well as sponsoring this video in order to show all of you how to play it. Thank you for your time today, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye!